If you ever ran for president, you'd win. This is Whoopi Goldberg. You don't hear that she said, "I'm making a movie." Would you be in it? I said, "In what capacity?" "Just a walk-on." "You're so great?" "Would you do it?" I did a walk-on for Whoopi Goldberg. Now So I refuse to mention his name. You know what? Politics can do strange things to demented people. You know who was ranting on social media that no one wants to see that on his inauguration day? Sir, this was one of our presidents. The feud between Whoopi Goldberg and Karoline Leavitt is heating up into a full-scale media war. And Whoopi just poured gasoline on the fire with a move that triggered a complete meltdown from the White House press secretary. If you know Karoline Leavitt, you know she doesn't pull punches, and this time, she came out swinging with a blow that left Whoopi Goldberg figuratively scorched. But what did Whoopi do to set off Leavitt's savage response? And how brutal was the press secretary's counterattack? Brace yourself, because this showdown is packed with drama, controversy, and reactions from major names like Bill Maher, Joe Rogan, and Megyn Kelly. And believe me, you won't want to miss a single moment. Now take him seriously and take him literally. I don't think that we have to. I think it would be remiss of us to not say, Joe Biden knows how to do this. Yes, he knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And you know you can't refute anything with him. Because when I say him, I mean he rambles. Trump tends to But can I mention one thing before we dive into the madness? Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Trust me. This story is only going to get crazier. Now let's get straight to it. No fluff, no filler. Just the raw and unfiltered truth. For years, Whoopi Goldberg has treated Donald Trump's name like it's a cursed phrase, avoiding any direct mention of the former president on The View, as if speaking it could trigger total chaos. No matter how intense the debates became, she masterfully sidestepped, deflected, and danced around Trump's name as though saying it aloud would somehow turn her to stone. But then, the slip heard around the internet happened, in a moment so perfectly ironic, perhaps out of pure muscle memory or a rare lapse in composure. Whoopi accidentally let Trump's name slip during a live broadcast. The second the words escaped her lips, her face twisted in sheer horror, as if she'd just released a political demon. And then, in a move so classic Whoopi it almost felt scripted, she spat on the floor, right there on air, as if trying to physically rid herself of the sheer shock of acknowledging the sitting president of the United States. It wasn't just a reaction. It was an all-out meltdown for the ages. And trust me, you've got to see it to believe it. Watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic it is that Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they've been wrong about everything they've said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They mocked him. They shamed him. They lied about him, consistently, on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November 6th, when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies they've spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. The second that glob of spit hit the floor, the outrage came flooding in from every angle. Viewers were furious, with backlash pouring in like a dam bursting open. Social media erupted as people lined up to call out Whoopi for what many considered one of the most disrespectful moments ever witnessed on live TV. Some went as far as calling it a new low, blasting her not only for disrespecting Trump, but for spitting on the very dignity of the presidency itself. One enraged viewer didn't hold back, posting, "Whoopi spitting is disgraceful. And so is the gang that laughs about it. Cancel this leftist propaganda show now." Another fired back with, "I do the same thing when I see her pop up on my newsfeed." But perhaps the most brutal response came from those who saw Whoopi's stunt as a direct slap in the face to millions of Americans, with one commenter writing, "She didn't just spit on Trump, she spat on the faces of half the country that supports him." And if you thought the White House was just going to let this slide, think again. Karoline Leavitt was absolutely livid over Whoopi's public display of disgust. When it was her turn to respond, I've got to give credit where it's due. Karoline knows how to throw a punch. And this time, she didn't just toss a casual jab at Whoopi. She absolutely obliterated her. This wasn't some weak dig or a throwaway remark. No, it was a precision strike aimed straight at the biggest embarrassment of Whoopi's career. Every word was calculated, each insult delivered with razor-sharp accuracy, and Whoopi had nowhere to hide. Leavitt made it clear that Whoopi's over-the-top antics were nothing but a distraction, completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. That stupid view, where you have these really dumb people. You know, Whoopi Goldberg said, "Would you participate in a movie?" She made some movie on basketball. This was before I ran for politics. She said, "Oh, you're so great. If you ever ran for president, you'd win." This is Whoopi Goldberg, you don't hear that? She said, "I'm making a movie. Would you be in it?" I said, "In what capacity?" "Just a walk-on. You're so great. Would you do it?" I did a walk-on for Whoopi Goldberg. Now she, So I refused to mention his name. You know what? Politics can do strange things to demented people. At the end of the day, the American people have already made their decision, and they're standing with Trump. No amount of Hollywood theatrics or mainstream media spin is going to change that. The proof? The ballot box. Despite years of relentless propaganda, despite the elites in their little echo chambers trying to silence any opposition, Trump's support only grew stronger. And just when it looked like Leavitt was finished, she dropped the final hammer. She turned her sights directly on The View, calling out the hosts for their delusions of influence. She didn't just poke fun at them, she wiped the floor with them. Leavitt made it clear. They don't shape public opinion. They don't dictate elections. And most importantly, they're so disconnected from reality, they might as well be broadcasting from another planet. She didn't just expose their inflated egos, she completely dismantled them piece by piece. Naturally, Trump couldn't resist chiming in, delivering what can only be described as a knockout blow. His response? Savage, unfiltered, and absolutely unapologetic. With just one line, he left Whoopi metaphorically sprawled on the floor. Ouch. That stings. But here's the real question. Did Trump cross the line, or was this exactly the reckoning Whoopi had coming all along? Now, I've hired Whoopi to work for me as a comedian before, all this stuff, and a long time ago. And I went, you know, I'm not particularly shy about what I hear. Her mouth was so foul. Every word out of her mouth was like the F word, the this. I was with a group of people, like, sort of nice people, and we had to leave. She was so filthy, dirty, disgusting. Half the place left. I said I'd never hire her again. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because beyond all the insults and the internet firestorm, Trump actually raised some valid points. And whether you love him or hate him, that's the part that really can't be ignored. Now let's rewind to 1996, the year Whoopi Goldberg placed a big bet on the movie Eddie and lost. Big time. This wasn't just a flop, it was an all-out box office disaster. Shredded by critics and quickly forgotten by audiences. But here's where it gets interesting. Guess who made a cameo in that film? None other than Donald J. Trump. And here's where the hypocrisy meter goes off the charts. Turns out Whoopi didn't just invite Trump to be in the movie. She practically begged him. That's right. The same woman who now can't even utter his name without spitting on the floor was once all about showering him with praise, and even encouraged him to run for president. Reports say she thought he'd make a great leader. But fast forward to today, and suddenly the mere mention of his name sends her into full-body meltdown mode. The double standard here is off the charts. So let me get this straight. Whoopi was once technically a Trump employee, involved in comedy of all things, and that probably explains a lot about why her comedic career never really went anywhere. Let's be real. She was never exactly known for her razor-sharp wit. You've heard that type of violent, inciting rhetoric from our side of the aisle? From Republican leaders on Capitol Hill? I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable. The comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders. And frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency. And the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to the American taxpayer. Instead, Whoopi made her name on shock value, the type of humor that thrives on controversy rather than cleverness. If you've ever watched any of her old material, you know exactly what I mean. Honestly, it's no surprise she'd pull something as disgusting as spitting on live TV. That's just Whoopi being Whoopi, doing whatever it takes to stay in the spotlight, no matter how ridiculous it looks. She's got a long track record of stirring up drama and wallowing in controversy like it's her art form. And let's be real, this isn't about making a statement or standing up for anything. It's all about performative outrage, plain and simple. If there's one thing that defines the woke mob, it's this: they don't debate, they don't argue with facts, they throw tantrums. Think about it. Whoopi once praised Trump. She didn't just invite him to be in her movie, she practically begged him. She even said he'd make a great president. But now, she acts like saying his name is beneath her, like he's some untouchable disgrace. The hypocrisy is so thick you could cut it with a knife. And this is exactly why people are fed up with the Hollywood elite. They flip-flop on their beliefs based on what's trending in their little echo chamber. One day they're your best friend. The next they're acting like they've never met you. They claim to be for the people. But in reality, they're just performing for their own crowd. Let's not overlook the biggest double standard. They're perfectly fine with using violent language, throwing insults, and demonizing anyone who disagrees with them. But the second someone fires back, suddenly it's, "Oh no, we're under attack." Very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us, at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in history and in the moment, as it relates not only to the past but the future. Karoline Leavitt wasn't having any of it. She didn't hesitate for a second to call out the hypocrisy, making it clear President Trump isn't here to play games, and he's not about to let his opponents derail him. He has a clear mandate from the American people. While Hollywood elites like Whoopi are busy pandering to the woke crowd, Trump is focused on real issues. One of his first moves? Restoring common sense, by banning biological men from competing in women's sports and using women's locker rooms. Let's face it, that should have never been up for debate in the first place. But that's just the beginning. Trump is chopping away at wasteful government spending, cutting out useless programs that drain taxpayers' wallets. He understands that if America wants to stay strong, it can't afford to fall apart from within. The bigger picture here is simple. A strong nation isn't just about military might. It's about a stable economy, solid moral values, and fiscal responsibility. While the media is obsessed with Whoopi's latest tantrum, Trump is already putting plans into motion to get America back on track. That means putting Americans first, securing the border, revitalizing the job market, and ensuring the country remains a beacon of strength, not a globalist laughingstock for the elites to mock. And that's exactly why his opponents are freaking out. Because when Trump is focused, he gets results. But let's pause for a second and talk about Whoopi's political judgment. But it seems that, Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. Well, Bill, The work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by, or a result of, many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war. Was Whoopi really pushing Americans to vote for someone who can barely put a coherent sentence together? A former federal prosecutor who sounds like a walking, talking word salad? You remember this moment, right? Let's be honest. Kamala Harris can talk for hours and still say absolutely nothing. It's like watching a wind-up doll stuck on repeat. Every sentence is a chaotic mess, circular reasoning, awkward pauses, and of course, that signature cackle that tries to distract from the fact that she has no clue what she's talking about. Even when she manages to spit out something vaguely coherent, it's just the same recycled talking points we've all heard 1,000 times. It's hollow, scripted, and designed to sound profound while accomplishing nothing. Basically, it's the political equivalent of elevator music, just droning on in the background, filling time, but leaving no lasting impression. On the other hand, when Trump or Karoline Leavitt speak, there's no fluff, no filler, just straight-up action. Whether you agree with them or not, you know exactly where they stand. And that's why people respect them. At the end of the day, they're clear, decisive, and unapologetic. Kamala? She just stands for whatever sounds good in the moment. And that's exactly why nobody takes her seriously. But here's the real kicker. The mainstream media is fully complicit in the Kamala Harris act. They know she has nothing of substance to say, so they cut, edit, and polish her speeches just to make her sound like she's remotely coherent. They go out of their way to prop her up, desperately trying to convince Americans that she's competent, relatable, and presidential material. But the truth? It's all smoke and mirrors. Just a few days ago, the FCC had to force CBS to release the full, unedited interview Kamala gave on 60 Minutes. And let me tell you, it was a disaster. Go ahead and watch it for yourself. No amount of media spin could save her. Karoline Leavitt is the press secretary at the White House, doing a great job. Such a great job that the ladies of The View feel the green monster coming upon them. They really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role. Despite the full backing of the mainstream press, Kamala Harris still couldn't seem to get her message across. No matter how many edits, glowing headlines, or softball interviews were handed to her on a silver platter. She failed to connect with the American people. Why? Because she came off as entirely fake. Every speech felt forced, every statement sounded robotic and rehearsed. And when she veered off script? Disaster. The awkward pauses, the strange phrasing, and the word salad left viewers more confused than before. It was downright painful to watch. And it wasn't just her clumsy delivery that turned voters off. It was her complete lack of conviction. She stood for nothing while pushing policies no one wanted. Her ideas didn't resonate because they weren't based in reality. Instead, they were empty slogans meant to please the coastal elite, while the rest of America just rolled their eyes. And this is the woman Whoopi Goldberg was championing for president? This is why she literally spits at the mere mention of Trump's name? No wonder Karoline Leavitt called her out for being so out of touch. At this point, Whoopi isn't just wrong. She's completely delusional. It's almost laughable how disconnected these Hollywood elites have become. They prop up failing politicians, push unpopular policies, and then act utterly shocked when the American people reject them. Maybe that's why they can't stand Trump, because no matter how much media spin they throw at him, he still connects with voters. And when they realized Trump was untouchable, they shifted their focus to the next target. His team. Enter Karoline Leavitt. Whoopi and The View have been relentless in their attacks on Leavitt, hoping to rattle her, discredit her, or force her to backpedal. But guess what? It's not working. Despite all their attempts to tear her down, Karoline Leavitt has remained completely unshaken. She's not backing down, not playing the victim, and certainly not letting Hollywood elites dictate how she does her job.